If you're a new roller skater and you're here because you're trying to learn how to roller skate and you're like an absolute beginner, then you're in the right place. All right, we're gonna be talking about forward skating, the scissor position, crossovers, how to stop, how to go backwards, how to turn around transition using the eagle spread. We're gonna talk about some single leg balance and even dropping down to a squat. So if any of those things sound interesting to you and that's what you're looking to learn how to do, then stay tuned. This is gonna be an awesome lesson. So I just wanted to throw in a beginner's instruction on what the parts of your skates are, what their functions are, roughly given some of the names so that we can just begin to have a basic understanding of our equipment. By no means is this meant to be a thorough explanation, in-depth explanation on any of these parts. So for starters, my setup is gonna be a custom Rydell 3200 skate boot with the Arius Powerdyne plate. I've got Von Merlin wheels with quick ceramic bearings and the green butterfly cushions. But typically on a regular plate, this is how it's gonna look. All right, so just let's walk it down and talk about all the different parts of a skate. You've got the actual boot, the laces, you have your dance plug that's gonna go up here. Yes, I said dance plug, not jam plug, because I don't jam skate, so it's a dance plug to me. But you can also put toe plugs on there, which are the bigger toe plugs, great for outdoors, very good for stopping, especially as a beginner. But eventually we want to graduate to dance plugs because it gives you more toe clearance and you can do way more fun stuff, way more cool stuff. But you know, all the things are also possible on the bigger toe plugs. You just have to skate a little different. So this is a toe cover right here. This is so my boot don't start talking to me. And then I would address this bottom as just the base of the boot. All right. Inside the boot, of course, you've got insoles. I've got the Rydell Fitbed Performance soles where it's adjustable on the inside. Really nice. Highly recommend. Best $50 you'll ever spend, especially if you have a lower price point roller skate. It'll make it start to feel like luxury. Okay, so the rundown, top to bottom, is you've got the boot, you've got the laces, the tongue, the insoles, the base of the boot, and then you have the plate, which is this part that runs across the bottom. The plate is mounted to the base of the boot. All right, this is where your dance plug or toe plug would go. All right, and then this is gonna be your truck. This entire assembly right here, it goes out with these spokes, which we call axes, and then it wraps around these two black cushions, and then the kingpin goes down the middle. All right, so the truck is wrapped around the kingpin and supported by these two cushions on both sides. All right, on these axes is where your wheels go. So your wheels go on there, and what allows the wheels to roll are these things, these metal pieces on the inside, and they're called bearings. Bearings, there's typically 2 per wheel, and this is the mechanism this is like the tool that allows your wheels to roll. All right, so better quality bearings means easier time rolling. So if you are unboxing your $100 pair of Amazon skates, chances are some of these parts are lower quality, and a simple investment in better bearings and a better sole would significantly improve your skate experience. It makes a world of difference. I know the first step was like, you got to get your own skates. Now I'm telling you the next step. It's going to be an ongoing journey. And one thing I will say about skate equipment and just roller skates in general is this is an area where most of the time you can trust that you're going to get what you pay for, right? So if you just spent $100 on some roller skates, they're going to ride like $100 skates versus a $2,000 pair of skates. Definitely rides exponentially better, right? It rides more than 20% better, even though you're paying 20 times the price. So don't be afraid to invest in a better boot once you start to actually enjoy roller skating and think it's time to upgrade. So with that being said, let's get to it. What's going on, y'all? My name is Nijai Allen, also known as KJ, and I'm one of the founders here at SK8SHOT Studios, Kansas City's first roller skating school. We opened this place in November of 2023. And since then, we've taught over 300 classes to multiple students, hundreds of students at this point. Hopefully, these insights that I'm bringing from class to you to help you learn how to skate is translated well through this video, and I can help you get the results that you're looking for, and we can all roll. So before we get started, just to be clear, roller skating is a contact sport. All right. And I don't mean contact like football where people are like tackling you or anything like that. Unless you're playing roller derby, then it's like full impact. right? But I just mean the ground, all right? The hardest part about roller skating is the ground. That is the contact you're finna make, right? And it's not a matter of if, but when you're gonna fall, all right? So a lot of people's approach to roller skating is like, I don't wanna fall, so I'm gonna be super hesitant and hold back and halfway do all of my moves. And then as soon as I lose balance, at the first glance of losing their balance, they overcompensate and they panic, and then they fall harder, right? And so to avoid all of this, to get rid of that fear, to instill yourself with a little bit of confidence and be able to attack these moves 100% so that you do them correctly and safely, buy some protective gear, all right? Anytime I'm practicing and I think I'm about to fall, I always have full PPE, all right? Personal protective equipment. So bare minimum for me, even on like a normal session when I'm not practicing hard or falling, knee braces, all right? Full PPE when I'm practicing is gonna be wrist guards, elbow pads, and probably some soft cap knee pads as well. So invest in it, whatever you need to feel safe, absolutely get it. Let's normalize protective gear because it works and it helps keep you safe so that you're not going to the doctor's office with that broken elbow or that broken tailbone or that snapped femur because you landed on your leg wrong, all right? And we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about how to fall, how to not fall, and some of those do's and don'ts, all right? So get some protective gear, whether that's a helmet, wrist guards, elbow pads, knee pads, butt pads, neck braces, goggles, whatever you need to feel safe, get that stuff, all right? Enough of my rant. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is how you should fall, all right? When you fall, you wanna distribute your weight across an area. You don't wanna fall straight down on a single point. This is what I mean. If you were to fall on your hands and knees like that, this hurts a lot. You can feel that shock into your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder, your knees, all right? Anytime you have a sharp contact point, a sharp, like single point of contact, that's where all the force is gonna go from your fall, right? So the goal is to distribute that force in a wide space. So when you can help it, because we're not always in control of our fall, rarely are we in control of our fall in the beginning while we're learning, is you want to distribute that weight. And what that looks like is if I stumble and I fall, I'm gonna push myself or land spread out. And you also wanna relax, all right? So I'm gonna trip up, I'm going down, I'm gonna land and slide, right? I'm gonna try to keep my momentum going by pushing myself into the fall. The most important part is that you distribute the force. So you don't wanna fall like that where you're stiff and locked out. You wanna relax, you wanna distribute your weight. If you feel like you're about to fall and you're losing your balance, I want you to think, oh no, get low, okay? Bend your knees, bend your knees. Trying to regain your balance right here, hinging at the waist, at the hips, right? This back and forth stuff, that's gonna create what I like to call a Scooby-Doo moment, right? I don't know if y'all ever watched the cartoons where it's got the little sound effects, but you're about to fall, and then all you see is the ceiling, and then you see stars, right? We don't want that. So the next point I wanted to make about falling is when you fall, you want to aim to land on your pads. This is also why we wear protective gear, because if you know that you fall all the time on your elbow, like I do, then you want to wear elbow pads and try to actually land on your elbow this time, right? The one downside to this is if you get in a habit of falling on your pads and then you take them off, you're susceptible to injury, right? So be very aware of that. But wear pads and aim to land on them. If I have wrist guards on, it's okay to try to land on my wrist guards as we're going down, all right? Same thing goes for knee pads or anything else that's made to take the impact, right? Knee pads, wrist guards, elbow pads, butt pads, those sorts of things. You wanna aim to land where you're most protected, where you're most cushioned. That way the impact isn't as hard on your body. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was my biggest number one, do not do, all right? Whatever you do, and I always see this off of a new skater trying to catch themselves and recover from them losing their balance. First of all, remember, oh no, get low. Do not bend right here. In the case that you bend right here and you start to lose your balance and you find yourself falling backwards, do not do this. Is try to catch yourself when you're falling backwards with this toe, because the thing that I see happen the most, and this is like freak accident circumstance, but you can see some pretty nasty breaks of people's legs when they try to catch themselves right here and they sit on this foot and their foot folds over with their skate. It creates a lot of braking pressure right here in your shin, right? So whatever that is, a snapped femur or whatever, you absolutely want to avoid sitting on your skate like that at all costs. All right, so we're past all the other stuff. Time to take your very first step on roller skates. Now, when it comes to getting started on roller skates, the first thing that I want to say is start off on some sort of controlled, textured surface. All right, you don't want to start off immediately rolling, because the first thing you're going to notice as soon as you put these skates on is that they're skates and not shoes. And I don't mean that to be funny. I'm being super serious. Like, you have 8 wheels under your feet and you literally don't know how it feels to have 8 wheels on your feet right now because you're so new to roller skating. So put these wheels on, stand in the grass, stand on the carpet, stand on the side of the rink, stand on a grippier surface so you don't roll away on accident. And then let's just go over some of the basics. A good skate posture, a good ready position while you're getting ready to do your skate techniques is going to be feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, upright in my body, postured slightly forward, but my shoulders are back, my head is up. If I'm skating backwards, my head is going to be over my shoulder, but we're not talking about that right now. My head is up on a swivel, watching out for anything that might get in my way. If you're in the skating rink and you got other people around or little kids, we call them moving cones, moving obstacles, then you need to have your hands at the ready as well so that you can protect your space and make sure that nobody's going to take you out, right? So this is our ready position. From here, I want you to just start stepping in your skates side to side. I want you to feel what it's like to actually just pick your feet up, shifting that weight from left foot to right foot, all right? And just kind of give it a rocking type of motion, all right? Do this for a little bit. Try stepping, doing some side steps across, all right? And just get used to that motion. And then the other thing that I want you to do is lean on your skates, all right? Rock and dip that weight into your hip, right? Like you're getting impatient and you waiting at the grocery store and you cock that hip out, that mama at the store, you know what I'm talking about. Put that weight on that leg, right? And what that is you're putting weight on your outer edge. So let me go ahead and explain. We've got a lot of skate vocabulary to talk about as well as skate techniques. So you have 3 edges. You have your outer edge, you have your inner edges, and then you have center edges, right? Where you're just even on all your wheels. What that means is I'm putting pressure to the outside parts of my boot and the inside parts of my boot. And what that does when you're rolling is it allows you to curve and do these turning motions, right? Edges are extremely important because depending on what edge you're on, it'll determine what direction you go. It will smoothen out your moves. It will determine how balanced you are. Like for example, if I told you to lift one foot up right now, you would probably go like this and your weight would naturally go to your outer edge because that's the more stable edge, and that creates a center line for some of your weight to hang out this way and some of your weight to hang out that way without you losing balance and tipping over, right? And so we're just gonna rock side to side and feel those inner and outer edges. These are just stationary things you can do to start to get used to it. I know it's pretty plain and boring, but that's a good starting place to be. Now let's get into going forward and achieving your first stride on roller skates, all right? And it's not gonna be as magnificent as you think. We're in our ready position, and then we're just gonna take some short steps like this. We call this marching, all right? And when you do this, you wanna point your toes out into a V type of shape, all right? And right now, since we're on this textured surface, I'm not gonna roll away. But what this looks like as soon as you hop on the floor is you start moving, all right? And you get some momentum. Now, if this is your first time on skates, it probably won't come out that clean. That's okay, all right? As long as you're doing all those parts correctly, then you're on the right path, all right? One thing I wanna emphasize is if I'm doing this and my feet are parallel facing forward, you see I don't go anywhere. But as soon as I angle my feet out and I'm literally doing that same rock side to side, you see that it's like magic, you start to move. That's that skate shot magic, all right? So that is how you achieve your first stride. Pick your feet straight up and down. All right, look, if I asked you, what do you imagine when you think of a roller skater? Most people would think this. It's like stride, right? This guy aggressively pushing from side to side. So what happens is people hop on roller skates and they try to imitate what they think they see. But let me go ahead and let you in on a little secret right now. For everything roller skating, it's never like what you see. Because especially early on, or if it's something you don't know, you don't even know what you see. You don't even understand what's going on. So you're seeing the wrong thing. You're paying attention to the wrong spots. You're catching the wrong details. All right. A lot of people are going to see that image in their mind of a roller skater like this, and then they're going to do this. Right. And they're going to be stumbling around and you're going to be losing your balance. And it's okay. If that's you, it's okay. We all start somewhere. All right. But I'm telling you, just pick your feet straight up and down and angle your feet out, and you will get the motion that you're looking to get. It's not glamorous, all right? But as you build strength, as you build your balance, and as you build your confidence, this little marching step can turn into longer steps, which eventually gives you that stride, all right? The purpose of this technique is to trick you into doing the correct thing in order to achieve a stride, all right? And what that is it's showing you how to transfer your weight properly from one foot to the other. And when you push off of the correct edges and you're moving your weight from side to side, then you get a clean stride. But you don't know anything about anything right now. So right now, you're probably in the phase of simply introducing your body and your muscles to this new skate thing that you're trying to do, right? So the most important part is that you just get reps in, all right? And when it comes to repetitions and practice, if you want a brutally effective approach to getting better, count in 100s, all right? 100 steps, 100 laps, however you want to frame it, but count in 100s, all right? Because a lot of people will try something like 5 or 6 times, maybe a dozen times, and be like, oh, I can't get it, it's not for me. But I'm here to tell you that almost nothing in life comes easy, all right? Everything takes practice. Everything takes practice. And I also guarantee you that you're not gonna enjoy roller skating if you're not good at it. So I'm telling you how to get good at it. It takes a lot of practice, all right? And so commit to this for the long haul. This is not something that's gonna happen overnight. You literally need to build strength and flexibility and muscle memory, which only sets in once you're asleep after a good focused practice session. So with that being said, everything is gonna take time. Now that we're getting our first couple steps, I want you to start trying to get some laps, whether that's straight forward and back or in a circle in whatever small or big space you're in, okay? So a quick little drill that you can do for this one before we move on to the next move is try marching in place for a couple steps, and then for the next 5 steps or 10 or whatever, angle your feet out and then try to get a little bit of roll, and then straighten them again, and then focus only on the steps, even if you're rolling, because it's gonna help you get a feel for the balance and for the sensitivity of how much angle you need to create in your skates in order to get a certain amount of speed. Greater angle creates greater speeds. All right, so if you feel like, oh, I'm going too fast, then use less angle. All right, so for the next technique, I'm gonna show you how to do forward bubbles. I'm gonna demonstrate what it looks like, and then we're gonna break it down, all right? So here's the forward bubbles. Forward bubbles is gonna be moving both of your feet out and in simultaneously. So they're both moving at the same time. And this is gonna take some strength, all right? And this technique is good if you don't wanna pick up your feet, which is okay. If marching doesn't work out for you as far as like how comfortable or natural it feels, usually bubbles is the next best option for you. So it's not necessarily one is better than the other, but people have preferences, all right? And so in order to start this, our feet are gonna be pointed out. We're still in our good skate posture, ready position. Our toes are out. I'm gonna drive that weight into the heels of my skate as I roll out, all right? And chances are, if you take your posture and you aim your feet out and you just relax, you're gonna feel your wheels roll out like that, okay? And if they don't, you probably need better bearings, or you're probably just on a really rough, sticky surface or got grippy wheels, all right? So once we're here, you're like, well, KJ, how do I get back up? All right, I'm not trying to do the splits out here, okay? I got you. So in order to bring your feet out and in, you need to be able to do this. Bubble technique utilizes two positions that we refer to here as turn out and turn in. All right, this turned in position is like your pigeon-toed, and this turned out position is like your bow-legged or something, right? I'm pretty sure dancers refer to that as turnout as well. Sometimes skaters refer to this as the eagle spread or the open book. We're gonna be talking about all of those things after a while, but this is a fundamental skate position that you need to be strong in. It usually incorporates hip flexibility and a lot of groin strength, all right? That inner quad strength. You can practice alternating between these positions in place. And the way that you should do that is by placing your weight in your heels and dragging your toes in and out, okay? We like to call this the windshield wiper technique. So if you think about a windshield wiper arm, it goes side to side on the car, and there's a single point at which stays in place, and the other point is constantly going side to side. So you can practice this 1 foot at a time. You can stick that foot out so that you can try it nice and easy, and then you can put your weight over it and then try to do the same thing to get a more realistic feeling of how it's gonna be once your body weight is on it. And then you can try both of your feet at the same time to practice this method. So we're using the windshield wiper method to go in and out with our bubbles. The closer your feet are on the in and the further out your feet are on the out gives you more runway to gather more speed and momentum, right? And so you want to start here and roll out and then pull it in before it gets too far. Because if you end up all the way out here, you're gonna have a real hard time turning those feet in and pulling. One important thing that I should bring up about this technique is you're gonna find yourself pulling really hard on your leg muscles and getting tired and probably worn out and all these different things. In general, in the beginning of your skate journey, you're always gonna overwork. You're probably gonna be firing off all these unnecessary muscles that you don't need to do the movement because you don't know what works and what doesn't work. You don't have the muscle memory. That's okay. But I will say that if you feel like you're getting way too tired for this, then you're probably not using enough technique. The windshield wiper technique is finesse. You have to distribute the weight inside of your boot very precisely, all right? So I've got about 80% of my weight in my heels and probably like 20% of my weight into my toes, which allows my toes to move so smoothly. This technique is useful not just in beginner level things, but advanced level things as well. Like let's say a 1 foot spin where my foot is on the ground, that's with the windshield wiper technique. So at all levels, this is why it's a fundamental and not just some beginner thing. And this is why I always push people to hop in our fundamentals class. All right, there's a couple other things I want to go over with the bubble technique. Number one, you can use your body in order to make the bubble easier. All right, and what I mean by that is when I roll out, I'm dropping my body into the motion. And then when I'm coming up, I'm pulling with my legs. All right, so I drop and then I pull my legs together. You're squeezing your legs together like you're trying to close them like this, all right? So think adductor machine from like Planet Fitness where you're like sitting down and you're doing these little leg things. That's the exact muscle that we need, all right? And that's really one of the primary skate muscles. And as far as practicing the bubbles, I would say straight line first, then try to do it in different directions so that you can just kind of get used to what it feels like to distribute your weight in different places in order to get that curve while you're doing bubbles. So that's how you do the bubble technique. Now that we are getting our first little stride and we're going forward, we're moving, I gave you the gas, now I got to give you the brakes. But before I do that, I have to introduce you to the scissor position. So let's get a little bit of speed on our skates first. And then from there, I'm gonna push my feet apart into this parallel scissor baby split type of position. All right, so I'm gonna show you front. I'm pushing my feet apart, okay? Turn to the side from here, and I push out in this type of position. Now, this is a very stable position. All right, anytime you're doing some dangerous maneuvers or you need a stable position to depend on, this is a very stable position, and this is a very stable position. It's usually very comfortable to turn from and move in and out of while you're performing different techniques. So we're gonna use this scissor in order to perform a scissor stop. So I'm gonna show you what the scissor stop looks like, and then we're gonna break it down. Here it is. All right, so let's talk about the scissor stop. What's happening? I'm in my scissor position, I push out. Most of my weight is on this front leg. And by most of this weight, I literally mean like 95% of my weight is here and only 5%-ish is on this back foot. But really, you want almost all of your weight on that front leg. And here's the test to know if you're doing it correctly. You push out into your scissor and then you pick up your back foot. If you go to pick up your back foot and you have to do this, and then you pick it up, well, now you have the correct amount of weight on your front foot. That's how it should always feel. You shouldn't have to adjust. It should be a lunge type of position, and this foot is very light. And the reason for that is whenever we're doing breaking techniques, you have two things that's happening. You have your base, and then you have your break. Okay? So your base is gonna be where most of your weight is. Your break is gonna be the foot that you're using to apply friction to drag you to a stop. All right, and that's all we're doing is we're just touching the ground so that we get a little bit of resistance, and we do that long enough and apply greater amounts of force over time until you come to a stop. Right? Think of it just like when you're driving a car and you pull up at a red light. You don't just smash on the brakes. I hope. I wouldn't want to hop in the car with you if you did. All right. You ease onto the brakes over time and press it a little bit more firmly until you come to a stop. All right, so the same thing happens here. I'm gonna get into my scissor and I'm gonna touch the ground and then I'm gonna press over time. Here it is again. Ready, scissor, touch, press. All right, I'm exaggerating my break so that you can see all the different parts happening. All right, so you don't have to pick your foot up, you can just drop your toe. All right, this is how it's gonna look normally. Ready, scissor, stop. So that is your scissor stop. All right, practice that slow. You can also practice from here. Just get a good push and then drag the toe. Push, drag the toe. All right, this is why having toe plugs in your skates are important. This is going to be your go-to beginner method for stopping. All right, and if you don't have the bigger toe plugs in, then you need to have some dance plugs in with probably some toe covers, especially if you're outside. You don't want to tear up your boot unnecessarily. All right, so next we're going to talk about how to cross over. Now, crossing over is going to be exactly what it sounds like. You're going to cross one foot over the other. And this is usually done in a stepping, walking type of motion. So I'm gonna bring our lovely carpet out here. This is our yoga mat for assistance, all right? This means you need to be on grass or some sort of surface where you're not worried about rolling away. Grass, carpet, side of the rink, whatever, right? This is so that rolling is not a factor in this equation, so you can focus on the move at hand before we apply it on wheels and on the hard surface, right? So from here, we're gonna go back to that rocking motion that I was talking about. I want you to lean over one of your legs, get real heavy right here. This one should be real light. It should be just about off the ground at this point if you actually lean far enough, all right? It's pretty much ready to lift up. So I want you to go ahead and pick that foot up, step over, all right? It doesn't have to be like super exaggerated, right? If your crossover comes here or here or here, it's all fine. Everybody has different body types. Everybody has different levels of mobility, but the goal is to have a full range of motion. So this should be the goal, okay? Once you're here, you have to shift your weight to that front leg. Again, my blue skate, right? And then I'm gonna step back out, all right? So all in all, a crossover is gonna be a 4-step process to perform a 2-step movement. So it's gonna be like this. You shift your weight, you step, you shift your weight again, and then you step. We're gonna go the other way. I shift my weight, I step, I shift my weight to that front leg, I step again, all right? The weight transfer from one foot to the other is probably the most critical element that's going to determine how smooth your crossover is, or if you can perform one at all right? The one thing that I see a lot of people do is they commit to the step before they've already moved their body weight. They're trying to do both at the same time. And look, we're just simply not there yet, and that's okay. All right, we got to break it down to bite-sized chunks, baby steps, as few variables as possible. All right, so that means I'm gonna preload this leg so that the only thing I have to focus on is getting my foot here. My balance is already taken care of because my weight is all here. If you're 50-50 and you're trying to take that step and you haven't moved your weight, now you're moving your body and trying to step at the same time. And then it usually ends up looking like this, right? And you're just rushing through it and you're just reaching, hoping that the skate lands on the ground in a good way. We want to exercise as much control as possible so that we can skate safely and start to achieve a better understanding of what's happening with our skates. So that's the number one mistake that I see. Once you're comfortable going back and forth and you've done a couple dozen attempts at side to side crossovers, then you can graduate yourself from your non-rollable surface and step onto the wood, okay? Once we're here, we're gonna practice it again stationary, because now the wheels are a thing. Every time you take this step, you've got these wheels trying to come out from under you and take control, but we're not gonna let that happen. We're in control of these wheels, all right? So we're gonna follow all the same steps. We're gonna shift our weight, we're gonna step, shift again, step back out, all right? And eventually you want it to be smooth so you can go back and forth smoothly. You can go multiple times in one direction and then you can bring it all the way back, okay? And then once you're comfortable with that, do some side to side directional changes, because being quick on your feet and being able to go whatever direction you want to go is extremely important. And we also always want to be ambidextrous when it comes to our roller skating. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the crossover, and that's a common beginner goal, to be able to cross over through the curve on turns. I'm here to tell you that that is not where you start, okay? We're gonna do it in a straight line, and we're gonna do our back and forths very slowly. So I'm gonna be going here, and then I'm gonna take my step, and I'm gonna cross out, cross over, step out, cross over, step out. And I'm just gonna perform this in a straight line, because as soon as we start to curve, then you're adding another element to this equation that we don't need to be trying to calculate right now with our brand new skater brain. If you haven't noticed a pattern already, my approach to teaching people how to roller skate is you eliminate as many factors as possible so you can focus on one thing at a time. So when it comes to crossovers, the first thing I want you to understand is weight distribution right here, right? Then I want you to focus on your steps. Then we add being on your wheels and possibly rolling away while you're performing these steps. Then we incorporate movement into the exercise before we graduate ourselves to start incorporating turns, right? And edges is what the next step is being able to lean on those edges as you perform your crossover so that you can go in a circle, right? This is how it's gonna look. Step, now step again. If you turn your body towards the center of your circle, then it's easier to engage your edges so that you can get that curve, right? But all that is me engaging my outer edge on one foot and my inner edge on the other foot so that I can get that clean curve, all right? My weight is gonna stay heavy on whatever foot is on the ground, right? So this one is my outer edge, this one is my inner edge, and I'm doing the weight transfer as I perform my crossovers and land on those edges. I land on my inner edge, I land on my outer edge, and that is what allows us to curve. We're gonna talk about single leg balance here in a minute, but let that be your goal for your crossovers, is to be able to do it in a circle like that. So, all right, so we're gonna get into our second stop, which is gonna be a T-stop. So this is your go-to stop. If you don't have a big toe plug on your roller skates, then you need to learn how to T-stop, because you don't wanna jam your toe into the ground all the time in order to stop. Your skate is gonna tear it very quickly. This is why we have toe guards, but that's just to prevent accidents. Really, you wanna learn how to T-stop, especially if you're outdoors. You don't wanna wear and tear on your boot unnecessarily. So a T-stop is gonna look like this, where I'm dragging that back foot. Okay, so I have my base right here, and then I touch the ground gently, and then I press more firmly over time in order to create that drag and come to a stop. Now, when that foot goes on the ground, I just place it at first, and then I press. And then as you press, the wheel is gonna start, the skate is gonna start to get drug away from your body, and you're gonna end up having some of these moments where you go out too far like that. That's because you're not resisting, you're not counter pushing against what the floor is trying to stop you from doing, which is stopping, right? So basically what you have to do is you have to pull this leg forward. So think forward like that, right? And a good way to practice this and simulate it is on some sort of surface. You put one foot sideways, you put one foot facing forward, and then you roll out, and then you pull back using this back leg, all right? You pull back using this back leg. Those inner groin muscles is what you're gonna be focused on in order to reel yourself back. That is a good way to simulate what this is supposed to feel like. So here's a side view for you. I'm using these muscles on the inside of your legs, and I'm trying to close my legs basically. And what this is supposed to do is this back leg is supposed to feel like when you pull to come to a T-stop, all right? A couple of details on the T-stop. Number one, my foot, as you can see, is at about a 90-degree angle, all right? If you have less than that or greater than that, then there's a good chance that your skates will just roll instead of dragging on the ground and bringing you to a stop. So the 90-degree angle is very important. What's not very important is how specific you are with your foot placement. And this is what I mean. Whether I tee with my foot perfectly behind my heel like this and form an actual tee with my feet, versus if my foot is out here, not this, but if my foot's just like out here, shoulder width apart, that's so a fine T-stop. So you don't have to get too particular on that. Just know that you have a base that has most of your weight. You drag those wheels sideways, okay? So let's talk about edges. A lot of people are gonna have soft wheels. A lot of people are not gonna feel comfortable dragging their feet flat. I recommend performing your T-stop with all your wheels flat because they'll wear down evenly, and it's honestly the strongest stop with the least amount of wear and tear on your boot. The other option is practicing your T-stop with strong base here, and then dragging those wheels on your inner edges like this, all right? And then the final option is outer edges like this, all right? The outer edges one might be a little bit more for show than the inner edge one, but the thing about these inner edges is all those wheels, both of those wheels on that inner edge is gonna get rounded out real quick. If that is, number one, the only stop that I rely on, meaning I only stop with this right foot and not my left. And number two, if I do that all the time at high speed at highly textured surfaces, it's gonna tear your wheels apart very, very quickly. It's gonna wear them down. To prevent any uneven wheels or even a weaker stop, just practice it, trying to get all your wheels flat and getting that pull-in motion. One of the exercises you can do to practice this T-stop is to go ahead and form that T and then push off of your back leg and then drag it behind you. All right, so push off and then follow yourself and perform that T-stop. All right, it can happen as a little scoop like this, so you can kind of just get a feel for it of pulling that leg forward. All right, and then eventually with this stopping technique, with the scissor stop and any other stopping technique, you want to treat it like laps. So go straight line or in a circle, progressively faster and stopping harder and harder each time. So you start off right here, then you go a little bit faster and you go here, and then you pick up a lot of speed and then you practice your stop. You practice your stop full speed like that. Now, as for my waist up and what I'm doing with the rest of my body, you want a firm posture. You still are in a good, ready position. And that's primarily like what you need to focus on up top. What's happening in my feet is my base is on that outer edge. My base is on the outer edge and I'm performing it like this. And that's because my outer edge is just stronger for balance purposes. All right, that doesn't mean that's where your weight is entirely, and it doesn't mean that's where it's at the entire time either. There's always gonna be some course correction and little micro adjustments with your foot. That way you can stay on track and skate forward, all right? But for the most part, I'm favoring my pressure to my outer edge. So that's some of the key points on T-stops. Next, we're gonna get into backwards roller skating. All right, so the moment we've all been waiting for, backwards roller skating, how to skate backwards, all right? We'll go ahead and demonstrate, and then I'm gonna break it down, okay? All right, so how do you skate backwards? Well, it's the opposite of how you skate forward. As you can see, I did the backwards bubbles and the backwards marching. So let's start off with marching, we'll go to bubbles, and then we'll go from there. All right, so for the backwards skating, let's go ahead and hop on whatever surface you're comfortable standing on in your skates without rolling away. We're gonna be in our ready position. Then we're gonna point our toes in. All right, we call this our turn in position. All right, and I'm pretty pigeon-toed right now with the way that I'm standing. My knees are bent and the rest of my posture is what we've been talking about all this time. And I'm just gonna pick my feet up, rocking side to side. Now, the number one thing I want you to pay attention to is how I'm holding my feet. I want you to notice that I'm maintaining this angle as I take my steps. All right, a lot of people are gonna go into this and they're gonna be picking up their feet and they're gonna do this. And they're gonna be like, KJ, why am I not moving? And I'm gonna look at you and I'll be like, skater, because you're not angling your feet. Because if they're straight like this, you go nowhere. But as soon as I angle them, it's like magic. All over again, just same thing as going forward, right? So here it is again. If my feet are straight, I go nowhere. If I angle my feet, I move. Another point where people get confused about the angle in your feet is the important part is that you are releasing and landing with your feet at an angle. So if you're here with your feet in a straight line and then you turn when you go up, but then you go right back down straight, you didn't angle your feet. So we're turned in, and then you're gonna start taking small, short, choppy steps like that, right? And then you're gonna skate backwards, all right? So all of our posture remains the same, knees bent, postured upright, but slightly forward, head up, hands at the ready. But number one thing, you always want to look where you're going. So that means head over your shoulder, all right? Whether that's head over your left, head over your right, practice both. start to do some neck rolls, whatever you gotta do to get that mobility going. And while you're postured forward, most of your weight is gonna be in your toes. You're gonna angle and do all the other things, and you're just gonna start to step. This is a little side note, but whenever you want to go forward, your weight is in your heels. And when you wanna go backwards, your weight is in your toes, okay? So a lot of people, when they first start skating, they're always like in this weird in between, like I can't sit still, I keep rolling away. It's all about where you place your weight. The first thing to notice is definitely gonna be, there's always gonna be these little micro adjustments. You're always gonna be kind of doing this, but just on a much smaller, less noticeable scale in order to maintain your balance, right? But the next big component to these things is just simply where you're putting your weight in your boot, putting your weight in your toes or your heels or your outer edge or your inner edge, right? If I'm pressing my weight to my outer edges like this, and I put my weight in my heels, I roll forward. And if I do it in my toes, I roll backwards. But if I'm center and I just press my weight out, now I'm just standing, right? Or I can do it on the inner, whatever works for you, but keeping some sort of tension in the way that you stand is how you stand still on roller skates. So let's dive in on backwards bubbles. I've got my toes pointed in like this, and then I'm just gonna roll out and back in. Now, this is still using that same windshield wiper technique that we were talking about before, right? Where you're doing this, think about a windshield wiper arm, but we're doing it backwards. So instead of your heel staying in place and the windshield wiper going, your toe is gonna stay in place, and you're gonna drag your toe side to side like this. I'm gonna do it facing you. Drag your toe side to side like this. I want you to think about, if this isn't making sense, I want you to think about like there's a bug on the ground, or you're trying to put out a cigarette butt and you boom, and you stomp it out, right? It's the same thing. Put a little bit more weight on it, try it with both feet, all those different things. But that is the way that I go about my backwards bubbles. So I go out, and then I pull up. I push down, I pull up. I push down, and I pull my legs as I roll up. And I'm also using the windshield wiper in order to change directions at the apex of those curves, right? So that's how you perform the backwards bubbles. Hopefully this helps you backwards skate. So since we talked about how to go forward, how to go backwards, how to cross over, and how to stop, now I gotta teach you how to transition between forward to backwards. And we're gonna do that using the eagle spread or the open book method, whichever one is your preference. So this is gonna be utilizing our turn out position in our feet. We're gonna start off here. Get on some sort of surface where you're not worried about rolling away. That way you can focus on your position, right? Walk your heels up a little bit more. And you wanna try to get these in a straight line if you can help it, right? I'm gonna turn to the side so you can see. First thing I want you to do, we're in our ready position, point your toes out, and then walk your heels up to see if you can get them in a straight line. You can hold onto a wall, or you can stand in a hallway and use both sides of the wall to maintain your balance. Hold onto a pole or something. You can also practice that position out of your skates. That's what I had to do in order to get that level of flexibility. So once you're here, we're just gonna hold it, all right? And I want you to treat this like a stretch. Wherever you feel the tightness is what I want you to lean into. If you feel it in this hip, then go to that hip. If you feel it here, go there. If you need to thrust out, if you need to thrust backwards, if you need to perform the stance wide, if you need to perform the stance narrow, tall, low, you want to be comfortable in all of it, because these are all potential positions you could actually use while you're performing this technique. So that's your eagle spread position. I'm gonna teach you how to use that. That way you can transition to forward to back, back to front, or just as a cool trick. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we skate, we scissor, and then we roll that foot around into the eagle spread, and then we stand back up, all right? Here it is again. Ready, scissor, eagle, stand back up, okay? So, all right, so let's break down what's happening. First and foremost, you'll notice that I utilize the scissor position. And this is exactly why I say these are fundamentals, because Once we get going, these are all building blocks to more advanced techniques. So it's very important that we master these things along the way before we try to tackle the next challenge, to prevent bad habits from forming and to also just learn at a quicker pace. Like, I know it feels slow in the moment to try to master some of these fundamentals up front, but actually you're saving yourself a lot of time and struggle and things like muscle imbalance or bad habits. So moving on, our eagle spread position, we're trying to get to this, right? And there's a couple of options for how you get there. So the way that I was demonstrating is from the scissor, and I roll my foot around, and then I end up here, and then I push off of that back leg so I can stand back up forward. For most people, standing back up forward is simple enough because you don't have to commit to that back foot. You don't have to commit to that back foot to stand back up forward, all right? There's some weight transfer there if you want to use it as a transition to turn backwards. So we're going to get there, but right now we're talking about how to go forward. My weight is going to stay on that base the entire time, right? So whether I scissor and swing this leg around, here it is again, whether I scissor and swing this leg around and then stand back up, or if I'm just here and I pivot that foot out and then I stand back, the weight is going to stay on that base the entire time, right? And so those are the options. You can roll your foot around, you can pivot your foot around on your toe or your heel, or you can scissor and roll it out on your heel. Those are some of the options. You have to find which one is most comfortable for you and then take that approach and focus on it. Full speed, the exercise I want you to do is going to be both ways. Try to find you a straightaway before we do anything on the curves, all right? And it's going to look like this. I'm going to step, come back up. Eagle spread, come back up. Eagle spread, come back up. Here it is with the rolling technique. Ready? Scissor, roll, back up. Scissor, roll, back up. Okay? So, all right, so that is how you eagle spread and reset forward. Now I'm gonna show you how to use the eagle spread to turn around backwards. So we're going, ready, scissor, we roll, and then we turn around. So here it is again, I'm gonna use the pivot method. I turn my foot, I turn the other foot. One way you can practice the pivot method is stepping straight to your eagle spread position while in place. So this is what that looks like. If I'm facing this way and I want an eagle spread to turn backwards, I'm just gonna pick my foot up and I'm gonna step all the way around, all right? And if this is a challenge for you, you're either doing it incorrectly or you lack the mobility or strength, which is fine. You can work on both of these things. So if you're doing it incorrectly, these are the things that I want you to pay attention to. So like, I should be able to turn this foot out 90 degrees, right? If you can't, then that's fine. That's just a slight lack of mobility, but anything past that is an extreme amount of mobility. So you should be able to turn this foot to the about 90 degrees. You should be able to turn your hip about 90 degrees out. And you should also be able to turn your body about 90 degrees. And when you put all three of those factors together, it looks like this. And you can turn and step all the way around into your eagle spread, right? Whichever way you want to go. Try those three things. Hopefully that helps. If getting to that position is still difficult, then number one, I would recommend using the scissor and roll form of the technique, because when your feet stay grounded, all you have to do is put some more of your body weight on that foot to kind of hold it in the position you just fought so hard to achieve. So this is what I mean. If I'm doing my ready scissor and I roll, and this is about as far as I can get, if I put weight on this back leg, I can at least hold that and then bring my other foot to myself. It's not a perfect 180, but you can always just course correct, right? The goal is a perfect 180 or greater, but rarely do people start off that way. So you can half commit to these steps to kind of get a feel for the motion. And then as you get more comfortable with it, start to put more weight on that foot and then turn back around. As far as the transition goes, the weight transfer goes from your original base to the foot that's traveling backwards, right? And so when you're performing this eagle spread, let's say I'm rolling this way, This foot is rolling forward, this foot is rolling backwards. If we're trying to transition backwards, I need to bring the other foot to my backwards foot. And the way that you do that is the backwards foot gets all the weight, all right? So initially the forward foot has most of the weight and we're here. Once you take that step, it transfers so you can pick up that other leg and reset. Easier said than done, because as soon as you start doing this, you're gonna be like, what the heck, KJ? And that's because this is the very first actual technical technique that you're probably gonna learn. And so you're gonna start to see that in roller skating, things need to happen in a certain sequence in order to flow and you not lose your momentum or any of your energy, for you to not fall, for everything to kind of fall in place correctly. It has to be done with some form of sequence at all times. Everything has a sequence, not necessarily a rhythm, but bonus points if you can do it on beat, but everything has a sequence. All right, so a couple more tips for people who might still be struggling with this. Some of the things that I commonly see in class is people will go for the eagle spread and then this other foot starts to turn with them, right? And if you're having a problem similar to that, you can usually fix it with two things. Number one, put more weight on that foot. Chances are you're not putting enough weight in that foot, or you're not putting enough weight in the correct place, right? Now that we understand the windshield wiper method, I know that if your foot turns like this, that means you're heavy on your heel. And the way that you would correct that is by putting more weight into your toe. So it might not be the fact that you don't have enough weight in that leg, but you're putting that weight in the wrong place, right? So that's a very minor detail that a lot of people miss. And that's one thing that can change the whole game for you. The other thing is putting your weight on your outside edges would help you maintain the course, right? If you focus on your outside edges, then 9 times out of 10, you're pretty even in your weight distribution within your actual boot, okay? And that will help you maintain a straight line, and you're gonna focus on your outer edges on that front traveling foot as well as your back traveling foot. If none of this is making any sense at all, I want you to try the open book method, all right? And the open book method is this. Think of yourself like a hardback book, right? And you're gonna have your hands like this, feet together, hands together. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna open your body, your hands, and your legs all together at the same time to perform your first step into your eagle spread. And then you're gonna close the book. You're gonna open the book, you're gonna close the book. You're gonna open the book, and close the book. So also with this open book technique, I want you to look where you go before you actually take your step, because where your head goes, your body will follow, all right? We call this concept target fixation. I learned this while I was riding motorcycles, is that when you're focused on a singular object and you're looking at it, trying to avoid it, you end up going there because that is where your attention is guiding you. That's where you're looking, because where your head goes, your body will follow. We're gonna use this concept in a positive way to our advantage while we're learning how to perform this open book technique. So we're here, I'm gonna open, close. I'm gonna look, open, close. Look, open, close. This is really useful because focusing on the open and close takes a lot less pressure off of you having to focus on what your body is doing and it just makes sense, all right? So give that a shot if you're still having troubles with eagle spreads, and anything past that, drop a comment. I can make a totally separate video on this one because this is definitely one of the more technical, fundamental techniques. Now, I demonstrated the beginner level of the eagle spread technique. I just want to show you some of the options for how you can do this so that you can further advance and master your eagle spread technique. So number one, you can do it to the same side over and over. So you can go like this, right? And then you can go the other way, or you can go back and forth quickly in some sort of rhythm and treat it like a step with like a cross under, all right? And then the other thing that you can do is you can go into your eagle spread backwards. So this is the next level for you, is being able to step into that eagle spread while traveling backwards, all right? Much harder than it looks, all right? Then you can do it to the same side and you can roll with it if you want, or you can switch sides back and forth. You can go this way, you can go this way, all right? Open book still works here, and you can do all these different things once you master the eagle spread technique. It's super useful. You're gonna see a lot more of this eagle spread technique. This is just the beginning. So definitely focus on mastering every single form for this technique. So that is how you perform the eagle spread. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna go over is single leg balance. So single leg balance is pretty simple. It's literally just getting comfortable being up on one foot. All right, so first things first, you wanna be on an even surface, because if you hop up on this one foot and you don't understand weight distribution in your skate, you're gonna start rolling away. All right, so find you a texture surface so you're not worried about rolling away, or a flat surface that you're already comfortable on. And I want you to have your feet shoulder width apart, lean to one side. That foot's pretty light at this point, so go ahead and just lift it up. You can keep it close to the ground. When you lift, you most likely have to press your leg out in order to get that lift that you're looking for, right? And when we do this as an exercise, holding it stationary right here, this foot can be pretty low to the ground. I'm not touching the ground, but if I lose my balance, I can go right back down, okay? So we're here holding our single leg balance. A few of the things that I want you to do while you're here is practice different foot position with your off leg. All right, this is gonna create strength, range of motion, so that you're more comfortable in this position. Also notice that I'm on my outer edges. All right, I'm gonna demonstrate some of the things that I want you to do. Foot across the front. Foot out to the side. Foot around in the back. High knee in the back. High knee in the front. All right, and then we can talk about some of the crazier things that you can do, dropping into a pistol squat or some sort of coffin drop right here, or whatever, you know, fitness people call that, the dragon squat, things of that nature. So single leg balance is really that simple. Think of it like a plank. This is a static exercise. So normally whenever you have exercises, you're either pushing or you're pulling, but you can also hold, right? And we call these static exercises such as a plank, where you're just flat and you're holding it. We're just here and we're holding that one foot. I promise you, if you hold this for like 2 minutes and you just go from here, slowly around to the front, slowly, even slower than this, around to the back, and you just work all of these different positions, you will start to fatigue and you will get stronger because of it. So don't be afraid to just spend some time there. Once you're comfortable stationary, then it's time to put it on the move. All right, so same thing applies. We're gonna shift our weight before we lift up and have that foot hovering low to the ground. That way we're nice and safe and can catch ourselves if we feel like we're about to lose our balance. All right, so I'm on my one foot and then I'm gonna mess with all those different positions as well here. Ride it out here. Each one of these positions require a different type of balance. So body position matters a lot when it comes to single leg balance. Holding your balance here in this position is slightly different than right here. It's a very, very minor detail, but both of those work very differently. They operate very differently. And right now, since we're only holding our single leg, you're not gonna see the difference. But when you're doing something extremely technical, like a single leg pivot, where your leg is in front or in the back, is when you'll really start to notice how those small technical details create a very large difference in how this move is performed. So I'm gonna show you, for example, if I was here and I wanted to pivot around, that balance is very different than if I was here and I pivoted around. One of them is a lot more front heavy and the other one is very back heavy. And that matters a lot when you're pivoting on one foot, where you're pressing into your toes and then pressing into your heels. It's gonna change how you approach that move. So it's very important to get comfortable with all of these foot positions, especially if you're a stylistic skater trying to learn something like JB. Those are essential foot positions to have in your bag. I wanna add one more thing. You don't have to only travel in straight lines. You can also hold that single foot in circles. Now this is on our curriculum board as more of an intermediate move, but at this level, once you get comfortable with it, you can go ahead and go for it and just hold that single leg in some form of a circle and start to feel those edges while you're up on that one foot. All right, you'll get a better idea of how your edges work when you're on 1 foot versus 2 feet. But I would suggest if you're gonna go for that, try it on 2 feet first with a 2 foot sway. But I would suggest if you plan on doing that single leg maneuver, go 2 feet first. So I have both feet on the ground. I'm gonna lean and feel that sway, right? You could also implement the windshield wiper technique so you can sway side to side. And then you pick that foot up and you try it on 1 foot. This will really give you a great idea of what's going on with your edges once you're on 1 foot, because all of your body weight is going into that single edge, and then it exaggerates all of your movements. All right, and finally, we're gonna have our squat technique. So this is literally just doing a squat on your skates, getting comfortable with that position. For a lot of people, we struggle with getting down into that full range of motion, where you actually have your butt all the way down to your heels. This is natural at first, and then we don't use it. And of course, because of all of our sedentary lifestyles, things of that nature, you lose that flexibility, that range of motion. So the only goal for your squat that I have is at this level, just get to that position and be able to hold it for 30 seconds to a minute-ish, right? And so some of us might start off and be like, KJ, this is as low as it's gonna get for me. I'm so tight in all these different, my hamstrings, my hips, my Achilles, like my ankle area is not moving for me. I can't go past that. That's fine. Spend some time there. Again, this is a static exercise. Hold it. There's some actual exercises that you can do to get stronger at this. We can go over that in a different video, but this is just the position you want to hold. If this is as far as you go, for example, and you want to get lower, point your toes out, widen your stance, and then you can usually sit a little bit lower. And you just want to spend more time there. The more time you spend there, the better you're going to feel with it. Consistency is key. Train on a regular basis and you will see results over time. All right. The next step is going to be, of course, doing it stationary on the floor and off of your safe surface. And then it's going to be to do it on the move. So you get you a little bit of a roll and you slowly start to go into your squat position until you're all the way down. Here it is again. And you squat. And then we're here. So I just want you to be able to squat forward and backwards. So being comfortable, turning around, dropping into a squat, getting back up, opening up into that eagle spread, transitioning back around. All of these things are very fundamental skills. And once you get this, it's about time you go check out our intermediate playlist. All right, so that wraps up the fundamental curriculum for all the skills that we teach here at SK8SHOT Studios that we feel like beginners should absolutely master first thing in their roller skating journey. So we went over how to fall, how to not fall, some basic skate equipment knowledge, some basic skate vocabulary for having protective gear, forward skating, backward skating, crossovers, basic stops, scissor position, turning around using the eagle spread, single leg balance, and the squat position. I ran out of fingers. But that's all 8 of the fundamental techniques because we're learning how to skate on 8 wheels, baby. So if you're interested in taking an in-person lesson, just come to the studio, check us out. We teach about 12 classes a week at the moment. We're in North Kansas City, but if you don't find yourself in Kansas City anytime soon for whatever reason, then check out our online school of skate. You can find us at school.com/rollerskate. We got a community of roller skaters in there, just like you, passionate about roller skating, trying to learn, get better, having those skate conversations about equipment, techniques, tips and tricks, all types of questions about what skate should I get, all these different things. All of that's in there. Hop in there. It's completely free. I'm not here trying to sell you anything. We just want to help as many skaters as possible, but it is only free for now. So hop in ASAP. We also organize all of our course material in there. So you've got all the fundamentals under one spot, all the intermediate in one spot, advanced coming soon, and then other things later on. It's going to be like styles, spins, workshops, interviews. So like I said, check us out online, on school, or actually come into the skate school at the studio. I'd love to get a session in with y'all. Always open to questions, always willing to help if y'all ever see me in person. And I hope this helps, and I will see you on the wood. Peace.